Hey everyone, it's ENDYMION, and today I got stories from all sorts of game franchises that we need to talk about. From the Helldivers community throwing their arms up in the air and giving up as all their work goes down the drain in the most ridiculous way possible, to The Witcher 4 apparently not starring Geralt of Rivia and this is pissing people off, and Batman Cape Crusaders creators talk about why they gender swapped characters and it's so stupid that I need to talk about it. Firstly, Helldivers 2. In case you don't know, Helldivers 2 was pretty much the biggest game of 2024. It sold well over 8 million copies since launch earlier this year, toppling most of Sony's franchises' first-party releases in the same time frame. This was largely accomplished not because it was on PlayStation, however, but actually because of PC players. The Steam community embraced Helldivers 2 with open arms, and it's because of the PC gaming community that the game was able to reach such insane success so quickly. Unfortunately, after the whole PSN login issue controversy and the community managers exposing themselves as woke freaks who ban anyone and anything that talks out of line in their discords, the game was getting cooked pretty hard from all angles. Then the whole nerfing meta happened, which is still ongoing, and Helldivers 2 has gone from, like I said, the biggest game of 2024 to some players' biggest disappointment in record time. Recently, a new update came out for the game called Escalation of Freedom. It brought new biomes, weapons, some new enemy types to existing factions, and a new difficulty level. These kinds of updates are usually how these games bring back veteran and new players alike. Unfortunately, that hasn't been happening. Here's a picture provided by Grums on Twitter of Helldivers 2's player counts prior to the release of the update, and here's the game after the update. Yeah, you're probably like, well, wait, they're the same picture, and you're right, that's kind of the problem. As you can see, the update brought virtually no new change to player counts whatsoever. It didn't spike in popularity, move up the Steam charts, or anything. The update just kind of came out, people went okay, and then nothing happened. This is obviously very bad if all that work into new free content doesn't move the needle. Arrowhead pretty much spent an entire episode like Trunks did in Dragon Ball Z powering up only for Cell to slap him into the ground the very next episode. It was all for naught, so what the hell is happening? Well, the news gets even worse actually, but also kind of hilarious too because it shows just how done the community is with Arrowhead's moronic support for the game. As this article reads from thegamer.com, Helldivers 2 players are so done, they're letting the automatons reach Super Earth. Yeah, you heard that right. So if you've never played Helldivers 2, basically it has this big interactive map that updates in real time. And there's these things called major orders, which are community challenges that everybody works together for. Anyways, the current one, as the making of this video, has the automaton threat getting uncomfortably close to Super Earth. And obviously Arrowhead wants players to fight back the robots and protect their sovereign planet, and that's what would usually happen in a game where players feel like their time and money is being respected. They'll obviously play along with the meta story, and then justice would be served. But when you disrespect, ban, and nerf the crap out of your players, well, what's actually happening is happening instead. So now players are fed up saying screw it, let's just let the bad guys win and let Arrowhead's meta story and game go down a path that they didn't anticipate. As one user said on Reddit, let the bots advance, let Super Earth burn, or this great meme channeling Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies where it says, I missed the part where that's my problem, and really, can you even blame the players for doing this? When you've collectively ruined and driven your entire game community into the abyss of apathy, you really can't get mad that your player base is rebelling like this. Even Helldivers 2's Discord is just a giant mess right now. One of the devs on the game, who goes by Shams, pretty much explained in detail that even the developers aren't happy with the direction that the game is going. They were first asked why Arrowhead can't seem to balance the game for casuals versus hardcore players. Then after that, things just kinda get depressing, but here's what they said via Discord, and I quote, "This is where the rubber meets the road and probably the biggest reason for many of our missteps, brutally honest. This company hasn't released a game in 8 years. Last time I'm sure there were many diverse voices, but nowhere near the same as today. So what happens when the game you release ends up catering to a much bigger, different audience than you intended? I don't have the answer, but it's being discussed like crazy. We want to make as many Helldivers players happy, of course, but we know that the 3-hour-a-week casual dads play differently and want different things than the 30 hours a week CR 9-10 crowd. We haven't quite figured this out, and it's really new territory for us. This is a huge topic, but to me it's important that we really tackle it and be more transparent with you on how it's done. I haven't spoken to everyone, of course, but many of us are disappointed on a few levels. On the one hand, the update had a bunch of nice stuff that aren't really getting talked about, maybe deservedly so, as many aren't happy with the latest balance round. I think more broadly, it also has us discussing the path ahead and what we can do to avoid the situation again, i.e. internal learnings, more changes in process, etc. I think a lot of you fairly point out WTF, we went through this earlier this year, why are we here again? And I hate sounding like a broken record, but A, we have long lead times on development. What you see is the result of weeks and months of development work. Some changes take time before they show, and B, not a whole lot of time has passed between now and the June balance round, and most people are still on vacation. But it really doesn't, fundamentally to me, that we still need to improve a lot in understanding what players want and marry that to the development process. We want every release to be a step in the right direction. Constant improvement. I don't think we feel this was that, so we need to do better, but it's also clear that me just talking about it isn't enough. Actions matter. End quote. And this dev is absolutely right that actions do matter, and unfortunately based on the actions of Arrowhead's devs, higher-ups, and woke community managers, this game's failure is the epitome of death by 1000 cuts. Every stupid moronic decision made has been implemented and okayed by the devs, and every criticism or discussion started by players is either silenced by out-of-touch community managers who hate their own player base, and they just want to inject as much identity politics as they can into their community over time. The game is being torn apart at the seams by conflicting ideological struggles. On the one hand, you have a PvE game being decimated by devs who can't seem to figure out how to cater to casual and hardcore players. It's simple. You cater to the casual players because they are your biggest demographic. You can add tougher difficulties for those hardcore players, but the reality is there's always going to be a much smaller hardcore group of players that just end up burning through your content like wet tissue paper no matter what. This happens with every game, but I always found Helldivers to be the most enjoyable when shenanigans is happening and me and my friends are just playing to have fun, not to sweat or beat the highest difficulty. Why is this so hard to understand is bizarre to me. Casual player bases is how games like this survive. Look at Fortnite for a really good example of that. I mean, the fact that the devs nerfed the flamethrower into the ground in Helldivers, a weapon designed to melt flesh and armor, but now it can't, it makes no sense. And you know the communication across this dev team is screwed up when that same dev I spoke about said this via Discord about that flamethrower nerf. I don't think it makes sense at all, and it's something I raised internally. Like, how are you guys professional game developers being paid to do things in a live game and none of you can agree on anything? It's a flamethrower, dude. It burns things. You press a button on your controller or your PC, mouse, whatever, and then things get George Foreman grilled to death. It's not that hard. How much more can this game that is clearly already suffering? I mean, it lost 90% of its player base already, and that was in June. We're in August now. How long until there's nobody left? Your game is PvE. This isn't Counter-Strike or Valorant. Your game should be designed for people to play with friends of varying skill levels. Here's some advice, Arrowhead. Just stop nerfing everything into the ground. Who cares if players are killing bugs or robots very fast and winning and getting their upgrades? Isn't the whole point of your game meant to keep players playing as long and often as possible? And what do you think is going to do that exactly? Is it nerfing everything into the Shadow Realm so 90% of your gear is bad? Or maybe just letting people play how they want to and then just boost the weapons or gear that isn't getting as much playtime instead? To, you know, entice people to use things that they wouldn't normally use, but by just nerfing popular, powerful builds, you're just going to keep losing players. You already lost 90% of them. How much more can you lose before you guys just start panicking across the board? And while we're here, maybe tell your community managers to stop turning your Discord into some weird woke utopia where you get banned for asking any questions. You guys made a pro-boomer shooter war game with patriotic elements, and then you left the image of your game in the hands of Arkham Asylum patients who think that boomer shooter military games are bad because it's what conservatives like, and conservatives are bad because their college warped their brains. This is like owning a meat processing plant and then filling your factory with people who work for PETA. Like, what the hell are you guys doing over there? Is there anyone at the wheel right now? Or is the driver dead with their foot on the gas pedal and we're all heading towards the cliff until we inevitably fling ourselves off to our death as we all fall at terminal velocity? Get your act together, Arrowhead. You guys aren't solving the Da Vinci Code over there. You're supporting a game about morons shooting bugs and robots. It can't be this hard, man. But this is where Helldivers is at right now. Super Earth is going to get invaded by robots because the community apathy has caused everybody to no longer give a damn whether they win this war or not. Everything is being nerfed into oblivion for seemingly no reason, and the lunatics are just running the asylum. If Helldivers 2 never recovers, it will be to the shock of absolutely nobody at all. You did this to yourself, but let's keep going. Next story is The Witcher 4, which CD Projekt Red is currently working on full steam ahead. We know that the next game already won't star Geralt as the main character. I mean, they made this very clear in The Witcher 3, that game and its DLCs were meant to be the final journey of Geralt of Rivia. Doug Cockle, who plays Geralt in the games, was speaking to the Fall Damage YouTube channel, and there's one part where he talks about Witcher 4, and now the community is up in arms, and here's what he said. Watch.
Witcher 4 has been announced. I can't say anything about it. What we know is that Geralt will be part of the game. We just don't know how much, and the game won't focus on Geralt, so it's not about him this time. We don't know who it's about. I'm excited to find out. I want to know. I have not seen any script yet. I have not. I couldn't tell you if I did. This is the thing. So, I could be lying through my teeth. But I'm not. Or am I?
So Doug confirms that Geralt won't be the main character, but I mean, we kind of already knew this. It still hasn't stopped the fandom from raging all over, claiming that they're going to modern audience The Witcher 4, which I mean, I can't say if they won't or not, we don't know yet. What I do know is that CD Projekt Red is heavily invested in ESG. They also hired Mary Kenny of Insomniac Games, who worked on Spider-Man 2 and the upcoming Wolverine game. And she is also a stalwart defender of Sweet Baby Inc., calling them the best in the business when Gamergate 2 happened. So many people are worried that Witcher 4 will get Saints Row remaked into oblivion, but let's look into this, shall we? Firstly, each project at CD has a codename. For Witcher 4, the codename is Polaris. A simple Google search will tell you that Polaris is the name of the brightest star in the Ursa Minor constellation. It's also called the North Star, the guiding light, if you will. What I hypothesized like over a year ago in another Witcher video I did is that this name is chosen for a reason. Look, if you played The Witcher 3, you know that Siri is the lady of space and time. She has ancient elven blood and she can travel to different dimensions out of the main reality the series takes place in. The entire plot of The Witcher begins because of a celestial event known as the Conjunction of the Spheres. Which, if you don't know, it's an event where the multiverse pretty much aligned and then beings from various dimensions spilled into the world that The Witcher takes place in. This is why in the game you have vampires, werewolves, and all other manner of beasts. It's because each of these creatures came from a different dimension and then they basically entered the continent. So why did this happen? We don't know. But for example, the Wild Hunt in Witcher 3, they also came from their own dimension where elves live. And Siri, even at one point, claims that she entered a dimension where there were steel birds in the sky and people looked different. She likely entered the Cyberpunk 2077 world at some point before quickly leaving, and that's what she was referring to, by the way. The reason why I'm explaining this is because if I had to guess, The Witcher 4 or Polaris will likely star Siri as the main character going forward. Before people get mad, remember that Siri was technically the main character of The Witcher in the books. I mean, she's the reason for a lot of Geralt's motives. And The Witcher 3 is literally all about Geralt finding Ciri and the ending the White Frost and all of that. Now, of course, Ciri's not a Witcher, because as we know in the lore, women's bodies cannot withstand the alchemical process that is required to create a Witcher. By the way, most young boys subjected to the trial of the grasses also don't survive the process either. Some do, of course, and then they become Witchers. and some have abnormally high resistances to the alchemy like Geralt did. And then they were subjected to even further enhancements, which ended up turning Geralt's hair white, hence him being called the White Wolf. Because, you know, School of the Wolf and white hair. Anyway, moving on. The point is that Ciri being the main character would make the most sense, since Witcher 3 obviously hints heavily near the latter half of its main story that other dimensions exist and threats outside of the main world can and will invade. I think it's called Polaris because Ciri will be adventuring through multiple dimensions, perhaps, maybe discovering why the White Frost happens to other dimensions when their time comes, and maybe finally revealing why the conjunction of the spheres is happening in the first place. It would definitely open the game up to various unique environments, new threats, and interesting characters that don't exist in the main trilogy or books. And of course, having a character who can quite literally travel through time and space is a good way of making this happen. Also makes fast travel good too. Geralt, like Doug said, will be in the game, but likely he'll become the new Vesemir, if you will, to Ciri's Geralt. Now, people want to play as Geralt, and believe me, I love Geralt a lot too. He's one of my favorite characters. He's also had 3 full games worth of being played as. I wouldn't mind a Ciri-led game myself because it just opens the series to so many possibilities and new potential threats. Now, of course, the other idea is that we play our own custom Witcher, which I think is stupid and should never ever happen. Mostly because the Witcher games adhere strictly to the books that Andrzej Sapkowski created, and each character is distinctly who they are both in book and game form. Introducing a new Witcher wouldn't make a lot of sense, and this would be one of those Adeptus Custodes moments like the Warhammer stuff too. Because if they make a custom Witcher, this would be the first character where their identity and all of that isn't defined and is fluid, which goes against everything that the Witcher stands for. But also, if a character creator in Witcher were to exist, it would likely mean that you could make a man or woman as your main character. But again, women can't become Witchers. This has been established in the lore already. If Ciri, even with her ancient elven blood that allows her to literally tear space in half, doesn't allow her any special protection in becoming a Witcher, why would some random female be able to become one then instead? And this is where I worry. And I really hope that CD doesn't make the main character a customizable Witcher, because it would go against everything that they've done in the past. Geralt was customizable to a degree, yes, you could change his hair, clothes, and beard, I get that, but that's much easier to do and fine, and instead of saying that, oh, you can just turn Geralt into a woman if you want and then keep it that way, because no. Geralt of Rivia is a white man with Eastern European features because he was written and based on a Polish author's life and experiences. I do not want CD Projekt Red to modern audience or whatever The Witcher because it would ruin the franchise and spit in the faces of millions of fans who literally just want more Witcher and the characters that they love. If we play as Ciri, it's the only natural conclusion going forward to me that actually makes any sense. Unless they create a new male Witcher who's some new character that we never heard of, but at that point, I'd rather just be Geralt again than some new guy personally. I do still think that Geralt will be playable at times because I mean Ciri was also playable in Witcher 3 even though you did primarily play as Geralt. I just really hope that they don't kill Geralt off or somehow bend the rules to make female Witchers possible. Otherwise, CD Projekt Red will see backlash unlike anything they've seen before. And the fact Mary Kenny, the sweet baby defender, is working on something at CD Projekt Red, we don't know if it is Polaris or not, but if they do, oh god dude. They could sway CD into bringing Sweet Baby in and then we are really screwed. So all in all, best case scenario is that we play Ciri traveling through dimensions and discovering the secrets of the universe as new threats emerge and then Geralt helps her when she needs it. Worst case scenario is literally anything besides what I just said pretty much. Time will tell of course, but please CD Projekt Red do not ruin Witcher 4 for ESG or modern audience nonsense. You already got so much hate for screwing up Cyberpunk and then you spent years fixing it. Do not ruin yourselves again for this pointless garbage. Finally, speaking of gender-bending nonsense, let's finish with Batman Caped Crusader. It's a show on Amazon that focuses on lesbians eating in diners more than Batman himself. Also, the Penguin is a woman in this, and the creators were interviewed about this and then asked why they gender-bent Penguin. From FictionHorizon.com, Bruce Timm reveals why the Penguin is female. In Batman Caped Crusader, there's a lack of good villains. The title here kinda doesn't give full context, but Bruce Timm and James Tucker gave a joint statement via this interview, so they said, and I quote, "James and I were talking about the overview of the show, and we said one of the problems with Batman as he is there's a lack of good villains. You've got Catwoman, you got Poison Ivy, you got Harley Quinn, but it would be really good to have more female villains." And off the top of my head, I said we never really could figure out exactly what to do with the Penguin, what the gimmick for the Penguin would be. What if we gender flipped the Penguin? When he said maybe we can gender flip Penguin, I just got this flood of ideas. I was thinking of Marlene Dietrich in her tuxedo in Cabaret the musical, and the art form of Cabaret, and I just started drawing. I instantly got a flood of ideas. Also, I was thinking a little bit of Harvey Fierstein in Hairspray and Divine. It was just like I knew instantly what it could be, end quote. So what they really meant was Batman doesn't have enough good female villains, so that's why they gender-bended Penguin. But this also feels lazy considering that Bruce Timm created Harley Quinn back when he did Batman the Animated Series in the 90s. And there he obviously made a new character to fit that hole of a good female villain for Batman instead. This Penguin thing just kind of feels lazy, and they should have just made a new villain instead. I hate gender bending or race bending characters. It's always lazy and offensive. It just shows a lack of creativity, and instead they should have taken that Cabaret-esque approach and then used that to turn into a new theme for a new female villain that was like a stunt performer or something. But no, instead here's female Penguin who's built like a linebacker instead. It doesn't really surprise me either way, since Batman is only the focus of 2 episodes of this entire show apparently, and the rest focus on the female characters almost entirely. The show is basically Batman in name. It's just called that so people will watch it, because if they called the show Fat Lesbians in Gotham, nobody would really care about it in the first place. But the creative bankruptcy of entertainment continues, and it's really sad to see. Helldivers is a mess of their own making. The Witcher could be great as long as they don't go the modern audience route. And this Batman Penguin thing just proves that these creators have learned nothing and continue to scrape the bottom of the barrel instead. By the way, Penguin's name in Caped Crusader is Oswalda Cobblepot. They barely even changed the name either. So talk about bare minimum so the check clears. Good lord, dude. But that's enough for today, so let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, share, like the video. Thanks to my patrons and members. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.